Have you ever had a boss who seemed to be hiding something? I'm not talking about an affair or budget embezzlement. I'm talking about a secret that makes your stomach churn just thinking about it. Some offices hide more than documents. Some doors should never be opened. And some truths aren't meant to be faced head-on. Today, you'll hear the account of someone who uncovered something. But too much curiosity can cost you your sanity. Have you ever seen or experienced something that nobody would believe? Now take a deep breath and try not to look over your shoulder. My name's Marcus, and until a few weeks ago, I was just another data analyst at a company so bland it seemed impossible it could hide anything. Clean environment, faded uniforms, a break room with bitter coffee and awkward silence. The kind of place where the clock feels like it ticks slower. But everything changed on a Tuesday. My boss's office, Mr. Howard, always felt off. I can't say why, just that nobody ever entered it. Unless called, nobody. Except that Tuesday, when I saw something I shouldn't have. At lunch, I came back early to grab my charger. The floor was empty, or should have been. When I turned the corner, I saw Howard's office door ajar, light on. And voices. I didn't recognize the second voice. It wasn't someone from our team. Quiet, almost instructive. It sounded like a meeting. But Mr. Howard only responded with, "Understood, I'm ready. No one suspects anything." I stood frozen behind the wall, catching fragments of what they said. Before I could back off, the voice vanished. I spun around and tried to act normal. But as I walked back to my cubicle, what bothered me wasn't what I heard, it was what I felt. That afternoon, Mr. Howard left the building without telling anyone. Just vanished like his shift had ended. But he left his office door locked, and to my surprise, the light's still on. Back at my desk, I tried to focus on spreadsheets to make it through the month, but everything turned grayscale. The room felt like it was shrinking. The only sound was my own heart pounding over Excel. I stood up, got water from the kitchen, took a deep breath, swiped my card, and decided to leave early. I needed time to think. I came home broke inside. Sleeping wasn't an option. The next day, I walked into the office with a split mind. Part of me wanted to run. The other part craved to know what lay behind that door. And eventually, I returned. Not out of courage, out of foolishness and twisted curiosity. A decision I knew would hurt me, and yet I made it. Howard's office door was closed, but this time, the key was still in the lock. Someone had left in a hurry. I pushed the door open. The room was smaller than it looked. A dark wood desk, filing cabinets against the walls, stacks of documents. I walked straight to the shelf behind the desk, books on management, accounting, leadership. All normal until I heard a faint click. One shelf looked slightly warped, as if it could slide. Then I saw it, a hidden compartment tucked behind the books. A panel that moved when I pressed the volume titled Internal Compliance. Behind it, a tunnel carved straight into the wall. My stomach dropped. This was the threshold to a forbidden world. A secret access no one should discover. I opened it carefully. Inside was a small compartment. Weak, cold light. A wooden box, closed. I carried it to the desk. It was lighter than expected. On the lid was a metal plaque, hand engraved in shaky letters, as if spoken by a ravenous voice. For prolongation, for afterlife, for return. My heart halted for a split second. Inside were handwritten notes, newspaper clippings, photographs, and a sealed envelope. The first photo, a woman, eyes closed, a thick stitched scar across her face. I closed the box, stifled my breath, and returned everything to the hidden compartment. I slid the panel back into place and pushed the shelf shut. I left the office like a ghost. Every step weighed on me, and over, the phrase hammered in my mind, prolongation, afterlife, returned in the following days. Time slowed. And Howard, I could never look at him the same way again. But I knew, and without meaning to, I kept going back to that door. Whenever he went to a meeting, whenever the floor went silent, I'd pause a moment, hold my breath, and slip inside. It became an addiction. I rifled through every folder, scrutinized every file. Dossiers with names, coded IDs, financial data, addresses. Some names I recognized, IT techs, HR assistants, a receptionist I'd had lunch with for weeks, all with termination dates that didn't match anyone's memory. But it was one photo that froze me. Inside a brown envelope, a blurred black and white image, a group of people, 5 or 6 seen from behind, entering a dim room. Their silhouettes pulled and elongated. At the bottom corner, barely noticeable, someone carried the box. That same box, I recognized the marks. I reopened it. The same contents, plus one new sheet of note in blue ink, handwritten. Once seen, it cannot be unseen. It isn't the thing that watches us. We are the ones who, in looking, release it. And it returns. The words hit me like a punch. My hand trembled. I tried to rationalize. Maybe I missed this note before. Maybe it was all imagination. But it wasn't. Then came the nightmares. Intense, vivid. I'd wake in the night drenched in sweat, feeling watched. Once, I saw damp footprints on the bathroom floor. And I live alone. Everything I'd found at the office was bleeding into my life. Or maybe it was just the box. Maybe that's all it ever did return, what no one wanted. Worst part? I still had no idea what exactly it was. But it was getting closer. The most dangerous thing you can do at work is start paying attention not to deadlines, not to emails, to the cracks, the too long silences. What's unspoken? I was watching everything. The elevator lingering between floors. Employees entering, never exiting. The back room. Nobody opened. And Howard more absent than ever, like a projection in autopilot. I began doubting myself. When I finished reports, whether the first was the one who wrote them, that voice I heard in the hallway mine, or someone sounding just like me. Sometimes, on the security monitors, my image froze for a second too long. One day, I took one of the old letters home to read it thoroughly. It was the worst idea ever. In it, someone described how, after weeks in contact with the box, they began to feel an echo. That's the word. Like the body carried a sound from outside. They reported stopping seeing their reflection. Not due to a glitch, but due to takeover. Their reflection was taken over. I dropped the letter, raced to the bathroom, flipped on the light, touched the cold sink before meeting the mirror. I was still there, but something was off. My reflection lagged by a fraction of a second, like a frozen live stream. I blinked. My reflection blinked a moment later. When I reached out to touch the mirror, it shivered. Not the glass, the thing behind the glass. That night I slept with all lights on. Not that it mattered. When I woke or was awakened, the box was on my bedroom floor. I never brought it home. And that's when I understood. She no longer belonged to the office. She followed me, or I carried her with me whether I wanted to or not. After the night I found the box on my bedroom floor, despite never bringing it home, something began to change. Not in the world around me, but in how the world perceived me. People started looking at me differently, quietly, for too long. That same week, the elevator mirror cracked right where my reflection stood. And the next day, my phone's front camera began to fail. Only with me. None of it was coincidence. At work, the box had vanished, as if it never existed. But the after effects didn't disappear, they continued. Dreams. All the same. Me, at the office, stood alone. Sometimes walking, sometimes trapped, like part of the furniture. The worst part was seeing myself arrive. Me entering. Me sitting. I began recording voice notes on my phone to remember who I was, my habits, the tone of my voice. Small phrases like "today is Tuesday," "I take coffee black," "my favorite color is green," things like that. But those recordings started sounding different, slower, deeper, as if each playback was less me. One night, I can hardly write this, I tried to record myself while sleeping. I placed the phone on a shelf aimed at the bed. When I watched the video the next day, I was there, lying down, sleeping. But at around 3:17 a.m., something sat up. It was me. Same clothes, same hair, same body. But the movements were not human, not normal. Then you start to wonder, what if it's no longer about what I saw in the office? What if that was just the beginning? What if the box's true purpose wasn't to contain something but to reproduce it, make copies, and more? If she was with me now, where was the original? The human mind has this instinct to explain everything. But there comes a point when you don't want answers anymore. You just want it to stop. In the days that followed, I began to notice small inconsistencies in the behavior of people around me, coworkers, neighbors, even my sister. Nothing obvious, nothing blatant, but continuity errors like a badly edited film. People greeting me as if we'd already talked that day when we hadn't. Phrases repeated in the same tone. One day, a client came into the office and called me by my boss's name. I corrected him. He laughed it off, apologized. Then, as he left, he said something that froze me. "You two are starting to look so much alike." The problem was my boss was missing. Since the night I found the box, he never showed up again. No one questioned it. No one seemed to notice. It was as if he'd never existed. But I noticed. In the reflection of the glass door, in the corner of security cameras, in emails that appeared in my inbox by themselves with instructions I didn't remember. Receiving instructions to maintain the routine. Keep the system running. Do not question. I began searching for answers in the box itself. I tried to dismantle it, understand its workings. Then one night, I awoke to a low, muffled sound like a hum. I went to the bathroom, but everything seemed normal. I looked in the mirror. There was no reflection, neither mine nor any other, just empty glass. I touched it, cold, solid, but deep, as if there was something behind it, or someone. Then I heard it, my own voice, whispering but saying things I would never say. Things like, "Don't fight, you've already been replaced. Now you are the reflection." I backed away, hit the floor, looked around in panic, hoping everything was an illusion. But there, in the corner of the bedroom wall, something moved. The face was almost identical, but features slightly wrong. Lips moved in the wrong timing, as if the copy was made in a rush. He looked at me, didn't speak, just waited. And I understood. I understood what it wanted. It didn't need to kill me. It didn't need to imprison me. It only needed me to stop, because that's what the box did. It created versions of you, until you were no longer necessary. Have you ever tried to run away from yourself? I did. I left the city quietly, without telling anyone. Moved into a rental cabin in a remote area, no mirrors, no cell signal, no neighbors, no reflections. But even there, the glitches followed. First, it was the car radio turning on at midnight, playing a voice that sounded like mine, reading in a mail I'd never written. At the cabin, I began hearing footsteps outside, precise, rigid, as if rehearsed. But there was nobody, no footprints, no shadows, just sound. Sometimes the TV turned itself on even when unplugged. And when I looked, it showed a short, grainy video of the camera filming my old bedroom from the house I grew up in. I thought I was losing my mind. But it wasn't just that. It was as if reality was trying to edit me out. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The box. It hadn't followed me there. It was already there, on the bedroom shelf, on top of the bookcase, quiet, closed, as if waiting for me, as if it knew I would come. But something was different about it. Now it carried labels, each with a name. Some names I recognized, former co-workers, people who had disappeared. Others I'd never heard of. But the last name on the list was mine. Beside it, a mark, crossed out, finished. That's when I noticed the reflection in my laptop screen when it was off, in the window glass, in a dirty spoon on the sink. Every reflection had one thing in common. It wasn't me. It was him. The thing, the copy. What made it worse? It already knew how to live my life better than I did. As if everything continued, friends responding, bills being paid, routines running, only I was no longer at the center. As if a switch had been flipped, and someone else who just looked like me was living my life. That's what started happening. When I tried to access my email, it had already been changed. Not hacked, changed, as if the rightful owner had shifted. And the new photos on my profile? It was me, but smiling in ways I never did. Wearing clothes I never owned, in places I'd never even been. The box now remained always in the same place, no matter where I took it. The car trunk, the cabin floor, under my bed, inside, nothing visible. Only a kind of dense black mist that refused to leave, like submerged smoke. And then I saw something in the bottom. It was a video, a short clip showing me standing in front of a mirror but not moving. And the scariest part, the video was in real time, being recorded now. At that exact moment, I ran to the nearest mirror, grabbed a shard from the one that had broken earlier, and looked at myself. And there I was. But I wasn't blinking. I wasn't breathing. I didn't move my eyes. That's when I understood what was happening. I wasn't being followed. I was being replaced. Trying to escape your own reflection is like trying to outrun your own skin. You can't really hide from it, you only delay the moment you'll face it. But I tried. That same night, I grabbed my car, the box, and drove to where even cell signals died. A place so far out not even satellites bothered passing by. It was an old, abandoned cabin in the middle of a fog-covered clearing. It felt like something pulled straight from a bad memory. I'd been there before years ago, with my father. There were no mirrors, no glass, no screens. It was the farthest I could get from whatever was watching me, or so I thought. That night, I slept for the first time in days. A deep, dark, dreamless sleep. But when I woke up, there was a mirror in the room. It wasn't big or new, just an old, twisted metal frame with a stained piece of glass. And inside it, me. A face with my same features, but the expression was hollow, as if it were idle, waiting for orders. And instead of copying my movements, it just stared, like it was waiting for the exact moment to take over. And that's when I noticed the most terrifying detail. It blinked before I did, as if it wasn't my reflection anymore, but a free, autonomous version. The box was on the cabin floor, open, shaking by itself, like there was a heartbeat inside it, an ancient rhythm. And suddenly I understood what it really was. Not an artifact, not a cursed container. It was a mold of me, distorted, copied, and the reflection. That was only the first stage. Then would come the voice, the memory, the emotions, everything, one by one, being replaced. As my reflection, or whatever pretended to be it, watched me with dry, eager, almost hungry eyes. The box on the ground trembled like it was giving birth to something that shouldn't exist, as if every inch of my being was being replicated from the inside out. But copying isn't just mimicking, it's removing the original. I tried to break the mirror, ran toward it with a chair, fear in my bones. But right before the impact, it blinked. Didn't vanish. It blinked, as if saying, "You're not in charge anymore." The chair went through the frame and hit the ground. The mirror was there, but not really. Solid, but untouchable. Glass, but also a gateway. Then the reflection moved on its own, and it spoke, not with a voice, but with a thought. That same internal frequency you feel when you sense an accident coming, or when someone's watching you from behind. I can do better. The box on the ground opened wider. Its lid fell by itself, and then came the pain. It started at the base of my neck, a hot throb, like a fever. Then it crawled down my spine. My legs gave out. I held onto the wall, gasping for air, watching the shadow from the mirror pull itself outward. But not with hands, with memory. My body was still in the world, but my essence, my identity, everything that made me me was being pulled inside the image, as if the mirror were a soul magnet. I tried to resist, fought with everything I had, but then I saw the final detail. The reflection was now using my eyes, the real ones, the ones right here, as if while I was dying inside, it was taking over from the outside. And in that last second, the one where people say your life flashes before your eyes, I saw only one thing, walking out of the cabin, in my body, with my face, with my story, and me. I stayed, trapped, in the mirror, trapped in the thing, in the box, or what was left of it. The cabin burned down. Days later, electrical accident, they said. No body was found. But the mirror? It resurfaced, at an auction in Texas, then in a hotel, always coming back, always waiting. And the box? It's with someone else now. Someone who thought it was just a strange item, a family heirloom, a curious gift left in the garage. But you, yes, you listening now, are you sure that reflection is still yours? Look again, but not for too long, because it might be waiting for you to blink. Ever had the feeling your reflection isn't quite cinched up? A tiny delay, a blink off beat, a smile that wasn't really yours? Yeah, science calls that pareidolia, perceptual glitches, or simple fatigue. But there's a theory, passed around by archivists, occultists, and janitors of very old buildings, that mirrors might be more than just reflective surfaces. Maybe they're one-way windows, only you never know which side you're on. What if mirrors don't just reflect us? What if they map us? And what if, one day, that map decided to act on its own? So tell me, do you work the night shift? Ever been alone in a room so silent you can hear your own thoughts? Or maybe someone else's? If you've ever experienced something strange, unsettling, or just wrong during your shift, send it to us. Here, your trauma becomes entertainment, and with luck, earns more views than therapy hours. Drop your story in the comments, and maybe next time, you'll be the one staring back from the other side of the mirror. Oh, and before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because if your reflection blinks, we'll be the first to let you know. See you in the next story, or on the other side.